America's next war may have already started, not with military weaponry, but over semiconductors and the rare earth minerals needed to manufacture them. China is now restricting exports of gallium and germanium, critical for military applications. Well, here to explain what this means is Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow China analyst Gordon Chang. Gordon, it's always good to talk with you. So first, how important are these two rare earth metals, and why is China restricting their export?
Gallium and germanium are important because they're used in semiconductors. And semiconductors right now are the main area of contest between the United States and China when it comes to technology. China makes or processes about 80% or so of the world's gallium and 60% of the world's germanium. And that gives it a dominant position, but it doesn't mean it is in total control. So there are things that we can do to break China's stranglehold. And the reason why this is important is because the United States is trying to prevent China from using chips in weapons that are going to be used against Americans. So we've got to do this, but it's a very messy process.
What does this mean for the average American? Higher prices for products, less availability for semiconductor manufacturers?
In the short term, there are probably going to be higher prices for things like phones and everything else that we have chips in. And basically, that's everything. Because we have going to take some time to not only mine and process these two minerals and others, but also it just is a long process in terms of switching in manufacturing. It can be done. It just creates a lot of friction. So yeah, prices will go up. Maybe there's an issue of availability, but these are temporary disruptions that we have got to get used to. We have been accustomed to a world where we get everything at very low cost. The world right now is turbulent. Trade and globalization are in reverse. And that means we're going to live in a world which is not as convenient and is not as efficient as the one that we have been accustomed to.
Okay, as you say, China provides these critical rare earth metals. Aren't there other sources?
Well, there certainly are. There's other technologies. We can reprocess gallium and germanium and recycle them. The best example of what's going to happen would be in 2010 when China banned the export of rare earths to Japan because they had a dispute in the East China Sea. Well, that export ban didn't last very long because the Japanese figured out how to get around it. One of them was that Chinese state enterprises continued to sell these rare earths to Japan despite the ban, because we got to remember that it's not only that we got to buy, the Chinese have to sell. And Chinese state companies, although they are subject to strict control by the Communist Party, they can find a way around these things. And so what happened was Japan got all of the rare earths it needed, and eventually China had to drop its ban. And by the way, that ban was a violation of China's World Trade Organization obligations. That shows China is a predatory trader.
Gordon, what should be done about this? How should the Biden administration respond to protect American national security interests?
We should respond by tightening our sanctions. You know, we've had semiconductor restrictions, which were sort of half-hearted, which were sometimes enforced. What we need to do is realize that China is implacably a foe to the United States. It's declared a people's war on the U.S. It is maliciously going after us, and we need to defend ourselves with all of our might. And that means, in the first instance, imposing the strictest of sanctions, which are relentlessly enforced. If we do that, then I think that we have a chance of prevailing, but not in the current situation where we're not really sure what we want to do. And there are a lot of voices in the U.S. that say, oh, you know, we should sell everything that China wants. Well, no, we shouldn't.
The Wall Street Journal reports that Chinese nationals posing as tourists have accessed U.S. military bases and other sensitive sites, maybe 100 times over recent years. So how concerned should we be about that?
Well, it's definitely an espionage threat. There's a pattern there. China uses every point of contact with the United States to undermine and destroy our society. So if you have one or two quote unquote Chinese tourists who've tried to get onto a U.S. military base, well, you could say, well, those are just isolated incidents, but not 100 of them. And we have to remember that we have all of these Chinese migrants coming across our southern border in unprecedented numbers. And although almost all of them are who they say they are, they're just desperate and given up on China, some of them appear to be saboteurs. They're packs of males in groups of 5 to 15 who are of military age, unaccompanied by family groups, who pretend not to speak English, and some of them are known to have links to the Chinese military. These look like saboteurs, which means that on the first day of a war in China, we are going to be fighting these saboteurs on our own soil, which means for the first time since the War of 1812, Americans will have a sustained fight on American soil.
Okay, Gordon Chang, Gatestone Institute Senior Fellow, thank you for sharing your time and insights. We appreciate you. God bless you.
Well, God bless you, Gary, and thank you so much.